Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this amendment. I would like to add a perspective to what's been said so far. We all know this is a very complicated problem. We have to wonder if anyone can unravel the Gordian knot of this pension plan. This pension problem has grown so big that you have to wonder if there's any policy out there that can bind this Leviathan. But remember, I want my colleagues to remember that most of the people paying the bills for the current pension plan are in the same lower economic bracket as public workers. Yet they're compelled to contribute to their own plans back home and fund the generous plans of the public employees also. Now, I've heard it said that this plan has worked for decades, worked for 98 years. Well, it may have worked for some public employees, but it sure hasn't worked for the taxpayer for 98 years. Believe me when I say the taxpayers want this reform and only ask public employees to share the same burdens as they do. Now, I know a young lady, for example, in one of my constituents, who worked her way through a master's degree, paid for it with loans, works at early development child intervention, goes to people's homes and helps little kids. She's very good at it. She worked up until the last few days of her most recent pregnancy. She has no pension. Yet she's got to pay for the pensions of the public employees. And I think it's emblematic of what we see in the private sector. People suffering, and no one seems to care about the suffering of the taxpayer. When I go home, Mr. Speaker, my constituents say to me, it's like an avalanche of avarice. These employees with their handsome benefits paid for by the taxpayers, they hear the taxpayers say, look, I'm tapped out. I can't afford to pay your generous benefits and fund my own at the same time. All we want is to move your new employees to a defined contribution plan, just like we do in the private sector. And the answer of the public employees' leadership and the answer of this governor is, no, you pay my benefits. I don't care if you can't afford your own retirement. You owe me a generous retirement, even if it bankrupts you. There will be no compromise. That's what my constituents hear. Well, it's time that these public unions remember that the taxpayers are the hand that feeds them. When you use the force of law to transfer wealth from a person who earned it to another person to whom it doesn't belong, it becomes just a form of legal plunder. There's an old saying that in government, difficulty lies not so much in developing new ideas as escaping the old ones. We have to escape the defined benefit plan and move toward a new idea that will help the taxpayer. We have to transfer the risk from the taxpayer to the individual employee. The taxpayers want this change, and so should you. It's the only fair thing to do. Please vote yes on SB 1. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.